Welcome back. I'm Maria Bartiromo coming to you live this morning from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the country looking to the future as its public investment fund commits to new opportunities, including contributing a reportedly $20 to $40 billion to the Blackstone Group in infrastructure. A big infrastructure push. I believe it was we're going to talk about that right now. I'm joined right now by the CEO of the Blackstone Group, Steve Schwarzman, co-founder, chairman. Good to see you, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you, Maria.
Yeah, and I think that infrastructure is really important, certainly to the president in the United States, but it's also really important here. You've gotten money from the Saudis in terms of this infrastructure fund. You're looking for this fund to be the largest infrastructure fund.
Well, we've announced that we're planning on raising a $40 billion fund. We can't comment on fundraising because the SEC makes us unable to do that. But the purpose of the fund, of course, is to put most of its money in the United States. And there are different types of infrastructure that we could be facilitating. And it may be that the United States at some point will be making improvements in terms of approvals to do infrastructure projects. When the government's building things, anything that touches a government in the United States takes somewhere between 10 and 15 years to get approved on average. If you're doing the same type of project in Germany or Canada, it takes 2 years.
Wow, is that right? Is that short a time frame?
So I would say we have a long way to go as a country to make ourselves as efficient as other major countries, which themselves are concerned about environmental issues as well.
Yeah. So where do you see the big opportunities? I mean, the president has talked about an infrastructure plan. Obviously, he wants to put an infrastructure plan in place. We've got to get through tax reform first. But are you talking about bridges, highways, all of the above? Where are the opportunities?
Well, the opportunities, for the most part, are in the private sector, because you don't need these enormous approvals. Some for pipelines, other types of energy things, power plants, utilities, telecom. There are a variety of things that you can do where virtually all of the monies that we raise can be deployed. There's a bonus, if you will, if the government can reform. And I think politically the Democrats are very in favor of expanding the infrastructure spend. I think there are chances to have public-private partnerships where governmental units that have assets with cash flow sell those assets. Federal government adds a bonus payment to encourage them. Then the money is reinvested to build more infrastructure in that community. For example, things like roads, bridges, and other things that need to be improved.
So you're looking largely at the U.S. in terms of this infrastructure, because I know here, you know, the Crown Prince yesterday was talking about this new city that they're developing, Neom, which is going to be from the ground up, and they're going to need everything. So there's that opportunity as well. How much of the fund will be U.S. versus international?
Well, the U.S. This fund will be primarily U.S.
Right.
With the ability to do some outside the U.S. But it's being raised and is geared for the U.S.
Steve, let me ask you about the broader company. I mean, obviously, the Blackstone Group has been incredibly successful. You're the largest alternative investment manager, almost $400 billion in assets under management. Congratulations. Where are you seeing the big opportunities for the next 5 years?
Well, we're seeing a lot of opportunity all over. What we're doing as a firm is we have been in the highest performing products in the world, whether it's private equity, whether it's real estate, whether it's rescue lending. And what we've learned is that investors want different levels of return. Some want less risk, less return. And so we're finding that we can now create products that for the average investor gives them a 7 to 8% return. And that's a potentially very large market. There are other types of investors that like products that yield in the 10, 11, 12 area. Our high performance products historically, have been in the upper teens to 20. So what's happened is we've discovered through just operating our business and talking with investors that they're much larger markets than just the high performance funds at the top. And so we're very systematically and logically developing and offering those types of other products. And we can take those products geographically as well as just in the United States.
So in terms of looking at, the segments that you find growth, I mean, do you find that you want to be, more so in real estate, the retail sector? Where do you think at this point represents value?
Well, value is different than us expanding the firm.
True.
So I thought you were talking about where is Blackstone going. So Blackstone has very substantial white space to grow the firm as we go to different types of investors. Now, this involves going to retail investors as well as institutions. In terms of asset classes, prices are higher now than they used to be.
Yeah.
But the economies of the world are all expanding. It's one of the few times where everything is going well.
That's sort of a scary comment.
It is a scary comment, but observationally, that's what's happening. And earnings are supposed to be accelerating. And this has led to higher prices. So we find that there are still interesting things to do in each of our business areas, but there are typically less opportunities to look at because the prices are higher. But we're still finding a significant number of things where we can deploy capital.
So what do you do then? You just want to do as many realizations as possible when price is obviously at this level, or do you just want to sit on dry powder? What do you do when we've got the public markets where they are and even private valuations where they are?
Well, it's interesting that our realizations are close to records, but we're also deploying this year somewhere in the $35 to $40 billion range, which is about the top for us. So what we find, Maria, that if we invest where there's value, and right now the U.S. is pretty fully valued, but Europe, for example, has been a very interesting place to put money, as has Asia. So over half of our investments now are going outside the United States, just because that's where the value is. These things move around.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked you about value. Steve, it's great to talk with you. I hope you'll come back soon. Thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Steve Schwarzman is the chairman, co-founder, and CEO of the Blackstone Group.